Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your time in tuning in to another video for extraordinary young people, just like yourself. And the title of today's video is A Guide to Arranging an Argumentative Essay. We are focusing on the CIE O-level English qualification, and in particular, we are looking at paper 1, task 1, which is composition writing. So what we're going to do during the next 5 to 10 minutes is we're going to start by thinking about what an argumentative essay is. And then after that, we're going to move on to looking at an exam style argumentative essay question. And the final thing that we're going to do is we're going to think about the structure of an amazing argumentative essay. But the first thing that I want to do is to remind you the importance of a vocabulary journal. Now, a vocabulary journal is a small book, a booklet, or a notebook, or even just a piece of paper that you take with you wherever you go. And when you come across vocabulary which is interesting or words that you have not heard before, you write those words down in your vocabulary journal. Now, when you get a bit of time later in the day, perhaps, then you go to Google or you go to your dictionary or some application on your phone and check the definition of those words and write that definition down in your vocabulary journal. And if you want, you can write down the definition in your mother language, that is your first language. That's no problem at all. But what I want you to do is to gradually build up a collection of words that you have not come across before. And slowly but surely, your vocabulary will get bigger and bigger. And you'll be able to understand more when you read. And you'll be able to say more when you speak. And that will help you with your grade in your O-level English exam. Now, the reason I mention it at this point is because I've intentionally included some challenging vocabulary in today's video. So when you come across a word that you don't understand or that you haven't previously come across, I want you to pause the video, write it down in your vocabulary journal, and then when you're finished with the video, you can go to Google or your dictionary and check the definition. I think that activity is very important and will help you to improve your vocabulary. Let's move on, an argumentative essay. All of us are familiar with the word argument, and I'm sure that most of you have probably had an argument or two in your life. Now, the definition of an argument, according to the dictionary, is an exchange of opposite views, typically anger, or heated discussion. A heated discussion means there's lots of tension in that interaction. However, an argumentative essay doesn't mean that you're going to have an argument. It means a slightly different thing when talking about written argument. When talking about written argumentative essay, the definition of an argumentative essay clearly states that an argument supporting a position or an issue, or gives several reasons for doing so. What an argumentative essay is. It is a way for you to defend your opinion on a particular issue by giving lots of reasons and examples to support your point. Now, something that's very important to remember is that an argumentative essay is not creative writing. I repeat, an argumentative essay is not creative writing. When you write a story or a narrative, or you write a descriptive writing, that is creative because you're creating it in your mind. However, an argumentative essay is not creative writing. It's more like an academic essay that you might produce at a university or maybe when you go to study A-levels. So it's a slightly different type of writing, and we should keep that in mind. So let's have a look at a past exam question. Here is a screenshot of the May-June 2018 paper, and it's important to observe that there are 3 different types of questions available for you to answer in section 2 of the writing paper. The first option, as you can see, is description. The second option is argument, and the third option is narrative. So you don't have to answer all of those questions, of course. You just need to choose one, and I have put a red box around the argumentative essay that we are going to look at for the rest of this video. So here's the question. It says, would you prefer to live in the center of a busy city or in a quiet neighborhood? Give reasons and examples to support your view. And then, as regards the length of how much you're expected to write, Cambridge advises you to write between 350 to 500 words. Now, depending upon the size of your handwriting, that's going to be between 2 to 3 sides of an A4 paper. Maybe more, maybe less, depending on how big your handwriting is. And you will be awarded marks for accurate use of language and relevant contents. There'll be other videos available analyzing the marking scheme of how this essay is graded. So kindly look out for those. For now, this is the structure that I would recommend for an argumentative essay. At the beginning, as with most pieces of writing, you should have an introductory paragraph. And the most important thing in an argumentative essay is to clearly outline your personal opinion or your argument in the introduction. So how would you do that? Here's an example. For most people, the attractions of living in a city would be too much to resist. From enormous shopping malls to more health options, cities have a great deal to offer. However, and perhaps surprisingly, I would much prefer to live in a small suburb. I will now explain the reasons, the opinion for my decision. Now you can see in red the opinion of the writer. The writer says that in my opinion. So it's very important to put your personal opinion or your argument in the introduction. Make it very clear what your position is. Then, after the introductory paragraph, you need to write at least 2 main body paragraphs. Now, these paragraphs provide reasons and supports for your personal opinion or your argument. Now, when you write a main body paragraph, you have to include details, and you should include examples. So here's an example. The paragraph says, one reason why I would prefer to live in a quiet suburb is the lack of traffic. Having lived in a quiet suburb having visited major cities like Kuala Lumpur and Singapore, I'm aware that moving from one place to another in a big city can be extremely stressful. Traveling just a short distance can be time-consuming due to the large quantity of traffic. If I lived in a quiet suburb, it would be far easier to get around. So in this paragraph, I'm explaining my opinion, and you remember that my opinion was that I would rather live in a quiet neighborhood than in a big city. So I've given reasons, and I would also give personal example. Having visited major cities like Kuala Lumpur and Singapore, I have personal experience of how busy major cities can be. Then, and this is often the confusing part of an argumentative essay, the next paragraph should be what's called a counter-argument paragraph. And that paragraph includes one argument against your position. And then you disapprove. So when you say one argument against your position, you put forward a reason why people might disagree with you. Let's have a look at the example. It might become a little bit clearer. Some people argue that living in a major city means that they would have better access to shopping malls and better quality products. So this point that's highlighted in purple disagrees with my own personal opinion. If you remember, I said I would prefer to live in a quiet neighborhood, but this is the reason why it's better to live in a major city. That's what we call the counter argument. The paragraph continues. This is true to an extent, as there are many shops that do not have branches in smaller towns or suburbs. However, the shops in quiet suburbs are more than sufficient for everyday needs. And should I wish to make a major purchase, I could always travel to a major city. So you can see the sentences highlighted in orange disapprove the point that I made in purple. So the counter argument paragraph includes one argument against your position, and then you go on to disapprove it by arguing against it. Now, the final requirement of an argumentative essay is a conclusion. And in the conclusion, all you do is remind the reader of your own personal opinion that you stated clearly in the introduction. Here's an example. In conclusion, although I acknowledge that there are clear benefits to living in a busy city, as a wider range of products in conclusion, although I acknowledge that there are clear benefits of living in a busy city, such as a wider range of products and more shopping options, I would much prefer to live in a quiet suburb. The lack of traffic suits me better, and I would prefer a slower pace of life. So, to review this is the structure that I would recommend for an argumentative essay. An introductory paragraph, two main body paragraphs, one counter argument paragraph, and one conclusion. Now remember that there were some words in my example essay that were quite challenging. So if you didn't understand everything, parts of your homework is to go back and look at those examples. Find the words that you don't understand and look up their definitions on Google or in your dictionary. I hope that the video has been beneficial, and I wish you best of luck.